A 17-year-old girl disappears. Florida, March 1974. Amy Billig, hitchhiking, on her way to her father's house. She never arrives. For the next 12 years, her mother receives phone calls, dozens of them, anonymous, a voice on the line, sometimes male, sometimes female, always the same message: Amy is alive, she's with bikers, she can't come home. The calls include details, things only Amy would know. Then they stop. Amy is never found. Her mother died searching. 50 years later, no one knows if the calls were real or cruel. Another night, another mile, another case that never closed. Tonight, Amy Billig, 17 years old, Coconut Grove, Florida, March 5, 1974. She was hitchhiking, a common practice. In the 1970s, she got into a van with strangers and disappeared. For over a decade, her mother, Susan, received calls from people claiming to have seen Amy, claiming she was alive, being held against her will. The calls tormented Susan, gave her hope, then nothing. This is what we know. March 5, 1974, Tuesday afternoon. Amy Billig is at home, Coconut Grove, Florida, a neighborhood in Miami. She lives with her mother, Susan, and her younger brother, Josh. Amy's parents are divorced. Her father, Ned, lives in Fort Lauderdale, about 30 miles north. Amy is 17, high school student, senior year. She's artistic, free-spirited, a product of the 70s. Long hair, bell bottoms, peace signs. That afternoon, Amy decides to visit her father. She wants to pick up her paycheck. She'd been working at his business, part-time. She tells her mother, "I'm going to Dad's." Susan says okay, be careful. Amy doesn't have a car. She plans to hitchhike. It's 1974. Hitchhiking is common, especially among young people. Amy has done it before, many times. Around 3 p.m., Amy leaves. She walks to US Route 1, also called Dixie Highway, a major north-south route, through Miami. She stands on the side of the road, thumb out, waiting for a ride. Several cars pass. Then a van stops, light-colored, maybe white or beige. A group of people inside, men and women. They look like bikers. Long hair, leather. Amy talks to them, asks if they're heading north. They are. She gets in. A witness sees this. A man driving by. He notices the van, the girl getting in. He doesn't think much of it. Just a hitchhiker, getting a ride. Normal for the times. The van drives away, north on Route 1. Amy is never seen again. That evening, Susan expects Amy home. Dinner time comes. No Amy. Susan isn't worried yet. Maybe she stayed at her father's. She calls Ned. Is Amy there? No. She never arrived. Now Susan is concerned. She calls Amy's friends. Have you seen her? No. No one has seen her since she left that afternoon. Susan calls the police. Coconut Grove police. Reports Amy missing. The police take the report. But they're not alarmed. Teenage girl. Probably ran away. She'll come back. Susan insists. No. Amy wouldn't do that. Something's wrong. Police begin investigating. They interview the witness, the man who saw Amy get into the van. He describes it. Light-colored van. Several people inside. Men and women. Looked like bikers. Heading north. That's all he remembers. Police put out a bulletin. Looking for the van. Looking for Amy. Days pass. No sign of her. Susan starts her own search. She makes flyers. Thousands of them. Amy's photo. Description. Last seen, March 5, 1974. She posts them everywhere. Miami. Fort Lauderdale. All over South Florida. She contacts biker clubs. Shows them Amy's photo. Have you seen her? Most are cooperative, but no one has information. Weeks pass. Then months. No sign of Amy. Then, the calls start. April 1974. 1 month after Amy disappeared, Susan receives a phone call. An anonymous caller. Male voice. He says, "I know where Amy is." Susan's heart races. Where? The caller says, "She's with a biker gang. In Georgia. She's alive." Then he hangs up. Susan immediately calls police. They try to trace the call, but it's too late. And in 1974, call tracing is difficult. Police investigate. They contact authorities in Georgia. Check biker clubs. No sign of Amy. But the calls continue. Over the next weeks, months, years. Different callers, different voices, male, female, young, old. All saying the same things. Amy is alive. She's with bikers. She's in different states. Georgia, North Carolina, California, Texas. The details vary, but the theme is consistent: bikers, motorcycle gangs, Amy being held against her will. Some calls are more specific. One caller describes Amy's clothes, what she was wearing when she disappeared: blue jeans, tie-dye shirt, things that weren't publicized. How would they know? Another caller uses a nickname only Amy's family used, a childhood name, not public. Susan is convinced these calls are real. Someone knows where Amy is. Police are skeptical. The calls could be hoaxes. People do this. Cruel pranks. False hope. But some details accurate. Hard to fake. Police investigate each call when they can. Most are untraceable. Payphones. Brief. Callers hang up quickly. Susan takes matters into her own hands. She drives across the country, following leads from the calls. She goes to biker rallies. Sturgis. Daytona. Shows Amy's photo. Asks questions. Some bikers are helpful. They spread the word. Keep an eye out. Others are hostile. Tell her to leave. She's accusing them. Susan doesn't care. She'll do anything to find Amy. In 1975, a year after Amy disappeared, Susan receives a letter, mailed from California. No return address. The letter says, Amy is here. She wants to come home, but they won't let her. It includes details about Amy's life, her family, things a stranger wouldn't know. Susan flies to California, searches, shows Amy's photo, nothing. In 1979, 5 years later, another call. This one is different. The caller says, Amy is in a mental hospital in the Midwest. She can't remember who she is. Susan contacts hospitals in multiple states, looking for Jane does. Women who match Amy's description. She finds several, visits them. None are Amy. The calls continue into the 1980s. Susan receives them regularly, sometimes months apart, sometimes weeks, all giving hope, all leading nowhere. In 1986, 12 years after Amy disappeared, the calls stopped. Suddenly, no more anonymous tips, no more voices. Just a silence. And this is where the story gets strange. The calls, over 12 years, dozens of them, all saying Amy is alive, being held by bikers. Some had details, accurate details, things not made public, her clothing, her nicknames, family information. How, if they were hoaxes, how did the callers know? Susan believed they were real. Police weren't sure. Some details could be guessed or researched. News articles. Flyers, word of mouth. But some things, only Amy would know, or her family. And there's the consistency. Different voices, different callers, but the same story: bikers, motorcycle gangs, Amy being held for 12 years. That's specific. That's consistent. If it was multiple hoaxers, why would they all say the same thing? And why stop? The calls just ended. No more. Not one. For decades. Why? Did something happen to Amy in 1986? Did she die? Did the person calling die? Or lose interest? No one knows. And there's Susan's investigation. She spent 12 years chasing these leads, driving across America, spending her life savings. She went to biker events, dozens of them, talked to thousands of people. Some bikers were sympathetic. They helped spread Amy's photo within the community, but others were suspicious, thought Susan was law enforcement, undercover, trying to infiltrate. They warned her off, threatened her. Susan didn't stop. She went to dangerous places, biker clubhouses, rallies, bars. She risked her life for a lead, for Amy. But she never found her. In 1986, the calls stopped. In 2005, Susan Billig died. She was 74. She never found Amy, never stopped searching, dedicated 31 years to finding her daughter. Theory 1. Amy was killed immediately. The van that picked her up, the bikers, they abducted her, assaulted her, killed her, disposed of her body. The calls were hoaxes, cruel people, tormenting a grieving mother. This explains the lack of Amy, the lack of evidence, but it doesn't explain the accurate details. in some calls, or the consistency. Theory 2. Amy was held by a biker gang. She was kidnapped, forced into a life against her will. She couldn't escape. 4 years. The calls were real. People who saw her, trying to help, but afraid. This explains the calls, the details, the consistency. But it doesn't explain why Amy never escaped in 12 years, or why no one came forward after she died or was released. Theory 3. Amy left voluntarily. She wanted to disappear, joined a biker group. By choice. The calls were from people who knew, but respected her decision. This explains the calls. The she's alive but can't come home. But it doesn't explain why. Amy was 17, close with her family, no reason to leave. And why torture her mother with cryptic calls? Theory 4. Amy died shortly after disappearing. The calls were from one person, someone who knew details, maybe involved, maybe guilty, calling to mislead, to throw off investigation, or to torment. This explains the accuracy. The calls from different places, one person traveling, but it doesn't explain why. Why call for 12 years? Theory 5. Amy is still alive, somewhere. She can't come home, doesn't want to, or can't remember. The calls were real. People still see her, but she's unreachable. This explains the calls never being confirmed, but not why they stopped, or why, in 50 years, no one has ever confirmed seeing her. Every theory has problems. The calls remain unexplained. After Amy disappeared, Susan Billig became obsessed. Not just searching, crusading. She founded an organization, Find Amy, Inc., to help other families of missing persons. She advocated for better laws, better resources. She appeared on TV, Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted, multiple times. She wrote a book about her search for Amy, about the calls, the leads, the heartbreak. She never gave up. In 1990, 16 years after Amy disappeared, a tip came in. A woman in Georgia said she was Amy. Susan flew there. Met her. It wasn't Amy. Another false lead. In 1996, remains were found in Florida. Female, around the right age. DNA testing, not Amy. In 2001, another tip. A woman in California claimed to be Amy. Police investigated. It was a scam. Susan kept searching into her 70s, her health declining, but she wouldn't stop. In 2005, Susan Billig died. Heart failure. She was 74. She'd spent 31 years searching for Amy. She never found her. At her funeral, hundreds attended. Families of missing persons, people she'd helped. Over the decades, she'd made a difference, even without finding Amy. After Susan died, her son, Josh, continued for a while, but eventually, he stopped. The case is still open, but inactive. No new leads, no new calls, just silence. As of 2026, Amy Billig has been missing for 52 years. Her case is still open. Miami-Dade police. Cold case. But there's no active investigation. No recent leads. Amy would be 69 years old now. The stretch of Route 1, where she was last seen, still there. Now called US Highway 1. More developed, more traffic, but essentially the same road. The van she got into, never found, never identified. The people inside, never located, never questioned. The calls Susan received, never explained. Were they real hoaxes? No one knows. In 2014, a documentary covered Amy's case. It featured Susan's story, her decades-long search, the mysterious calls. New tips came in. Police investigated. Nothing concrete. In 2019, a podcast revisited the case, interviewed people who knew Amy, bikers who met Susan. Over the years, some believed the calls were real. Others thought they were cruel pranks. No consensus. The organization Susan founded, Find Amy, Inc., dissolved after her death, but her legacy remains. Laws she advocated for, resources she fought for, other families found because of her work. If you have information about Amy Billig's disappearance, contact Miami-Dade Police Department, 305-418-477. The road keeps going. Route 1 still runs north, through Florida. A girl stood on that road. In 1974, got into a van, and disappeared. For 12 years, her mother received calls, anonymous voices, saying she was alive. Then the call stopped. 52 years later, no one knows if they were real, or if Amy Billig is still out there. Were the calls real? If you know something about this case, the comments are open. If you want more roads like this, I'll keep driving.